早其实是中华队这边比较仰赖的一个出球。这个球轻松破门了，没有越位啊，没有越位啊，哇哦！
If you really want a football manager challenge, try managing in Taiwan. Yes, Taiwan really does have association football. It's really obscure, but it does exist. In fact, there's a domestic league structure and everything. Okay, time for full disclosure. My wife was born and raised in southern Taiwan, but if you ask her about football in Taiwan, she'll tell you that it simply doesn't exist. She's never heard of any of what I'm about to tell you, and that ought to give you an idea of just how popular the sport is over there. Baseball is actually Taiwan's big sport. Now, this goes back decades to back when Taiwan was under Japanese imperial rule. Famously, a Taiwanese baseball team finished second in 1931 at Koshien, which is where Japan's annual high school baseball tournament takes place. This team was called the Kano baseball team. They came up from Jiayi, which is on the southern side of Taiwan. That's not too far from where my father-in-law grew up. Taiwanese baseball teams became famous in the United States in the Little League World Series back in the 1970s. Modern baseball culture in Taiwan actually looks a lot like baseball culture in Japan, down to the cheerleaders. So there's clearly at least some demand for sport in Taiwan. The biggest question that I have is why in the world football never really developed there. I mean, it's not like, the United States, Canada, and Australia where you've had local derivatives of rugby that became really popular and kind of took over the mantle of football. Wikipedia blames Taiwan's lack of soccer on American and Japanese influence. Still, I don't really buy it. I mean, I really wish I had a good answer for you. The game in Taiwan is extremely underdeveloped. I mean, especially when you compare it to the league structure of places like Hong Kong, Vietnam, or even Macau. Well, it turns out that there was a semi-professional league in Taiwan all the way back in 1983. This was called the Chiezhou Liansai, which in English is loosely translated as the Enterprise Football League. It was apparently formed because of interest in the sport after the 1982 World Cup. The league was made up of teams representing companies, the military, and schools, which is very similar to how professional sports are structured in Japan. Feituo, or Flying Camel, was the first really successful team. They won the league their first 3 years. They were a military team. Eventually, Taidian, or Tai Power, wound up being the most successful team in the history of the Enterprise League. They won more championships than any other team. Tai Power is affiliated with Taiwan Power, which is Taiwan's national utility company. Anyway, Taiwan's league structure changed in 2007. This was in hope of getting more direct involvement from local governments. They called the new league the Changshu Zuqiu Liansai, or the Intercity Football League. The local governments never really came on board. Tai Power joined in 2008. Remember, this is a team associated with a utility company, not a city. And then they proceeded to dominate this league as well. Now, the current league, which is the Taiwan Football Premier League, was formed in 2017. The interesting thing is that Tai Power hasn't won this league yet, though it did finish second 5 times. Datong, now known as Leopard Cat, was Tai Power's biggest rival during the older leagues. However, it's had much more success during the Premier League era. The most recent champion was Taiwan Steel, which plays in Tainan. Okay, let's take a look and see what this looks like in Football Manager. Now, you can't play in Taiwan in the game as it was released. I recommend getting the AFC League Pack by Master Igor on FM Scout. There's a link to it in the description of this video if you're interested. As you can see here, there are 8 teams total in the first division. Master Igor also created a second division, which has only 6 teams. Now, I've done a save in Taiwan before. In fact, I uploaded a whole bunch of those games to YouTube about a year ago, and I can tell you that it's kind of a slog. You wind up playing against the same teams over and over again. Both the first and second division are set up with 3 rounds of match days. There's one in the late spring, one in the summer, and one in the fall. You'll notice the teams don't play in July when it's so hot and humid that it would likely be impossible. And to make things even less attractive to Football Manager players, the only fully professional team is Hangyuan, which is located in New Taipei City. Yeah, to be frank with you, it really is a slog. I lasted about 3 seasons before I just couldn't take it anymore. And now, if you really want a challenge, try to build up Taiwan at the national level with one of those Build a Nation saves. Taiwan's national team is not exactly competitive. It does have some foreign-born talent, such as Emilio Estevez, who was born in Canada and whose mother is from Taiwan. There's also the youngster Miguel Sandberg, my personal favorite. He was born in Stockholm to a Swedish father and a Taiwanese mother. Estevez plays in Hong Kong. Good luck trying to get him to go to Taiwan when you do a save there. I was also unsuccessful in my attempts to lure Sandberg to play in Taiwan, though the real-life Sandberg apparently did comment on one of my videos once, which was pretty cool. Well, I'm not convinced that Taiwan's national team is going to have much success in the near future. I mean, it could happen. If more clubs became professional and the league grew in stature, I could see Taiwan becoming more competitive over time. But as it stands now, it's pretty much on the same level as the countries in Oceania. Yeah, it really is a shame in my opinion. I mean, it still is fun to play with. It would maybe be interesting to give the Taiwanese teams a sudden influx of cash and reputation and see what they can do with it. Now, sure, managing in Taiwan doesn't necessarily have the same amount of secrecy that, like, managing in North Korea or Iran or a place like that gives you, but I really do think it has the makings of being a hidden gem, especially if you jump in and maybe make a couple of changes and improvements to make it interesting.